Hello, my name is Andrew Toy, and this is my presentation on understanding password reuse behavior in the workplace. Why do people still reuse passwords? Password reuse continues to be one of the most common risky behaviors in cybersecurity today. Despite constant recommendations to use unique, strong passwords, research consistently shows that the majority of people don't follow this guidance. For example, a large-scale study by Hanam Sagar and collaborators in 2018 analyzed real-world password data and found that 98% of users reuse the same password across multiple accounts. More concerningly, 84% of users reuse important passwords at non-important and likely less secure sites. This behavior creates a serious problem. When one account is compromised in a data breach, attackers can use those same credentials to gain access to other services. Wang and Reiter in 2018 showed that this type of reuse enables large-scale credential stuffing attacks, where hackers take a password exposed in one data breach and try it on other sites to break into additional accounts. Even sensitive accounts like banking or work logins are often protected by passwords that have been exposed elsewhere. Shen's 2016 study highlighted that people often rely on passwords that are short and easy to recall, sacrificing security to lighten their memory load or the mental effort needed to remember many unique passwords. R and colleagues in 2022 also reported that many users reuse passwords across personal and professional accounts, which multiplies the potential impact of a breach. These studies highlight that password reuse isn't just a technical problem, it's a human behavior problem. People know the risks, but they choose strategies that minimize effort and cognitive load. This is why it's so important to understand the human factors behind password reuse if we want to reduce this risk effectively. Why the behavior matters more than technology. While technical solutions exist to help users manage credentials, such as password managers and built-in browser tools, they are often underused. Perriman's 2019 research found that even users who acknowledge their own risky password habits frequently avoid password managers because they don't trust them or find them too complex. This resistance shows that providing technology alone isn't enough to change behavior. Policies designed to enforce better security can also backfire. Habib and co-authors in 2018 studied password expiration policies and found that forcing frequent changes often leads people to take shortcuts, like reusing old passwords with small tweaks. These habits are still insecure, but they allow users to meet policy requirements with less mental effort. Abbott and colleagues in 2018 highlighted that many people underestimate the likelihood that their passwords will ever be stolen, leading them to reuse credentials despite knowing it's not safe. This disconnect between perceived risk and actual risk shows why many security awareness campaigns fail to change behavior. These gaps in understanding suggest that research should focus on the human motivations behind password reuse, the convenience trade-offs, the trust barriers with tools, and the low perception of risk. This project aims to fill that gap by exploring these behavioral drivers in a workplace context. Understanding reuse to reduce risk. Our study aims to answer one central question: what behavioral factors contribute to password reuse across accounts? Prior research shows that policy design can influence user behavior. Seitz and colleagues in 2017 examined how different password policies affected reuse. They found that stricter rules didn't always lead to better security. In some cases, overly complex requirements actually increased reuse because people couldn't keep up with too many unique passwords. Awad and colleagues in 2016 studied real-world habits in a small university and discovered that even tech-savvy students revealed passwords because remembering unique ones for every system was simply too much to handle. This cognitive load, the mental juggling act of tracking multiple secure logins, is a key driver of insecure habits. Building on this prior work, our project has four main goals. Identify the most common patterns of password reuse, Understand how people balance convenience and security in everyday life. Examine their attitudes toward tools like password managers. Recommend practical, human-centered interventions that make safer behavior realistic, not just ideal. This study aims to focus on the real-world choices people make, not just the policies or tools designed for them. Survey-based behavioral study. To investigate password reuse behaviors, we will conduct an anonymous online survey targeting at least 100 working professionals. The goal is to capture authentic behavior patterns without exposing anyone's actual credentials. The survey design is inspired by the large-scale observational work documented in the 2018 USC ISI technical report by Hannam Sagar and colleagues. Their study demonstrated effective methods for quantifying how often users repeat or slightly alter passwords across multiple accounts. We'll adapt some of these approaches for a survey format rather than analyzing real credentials, ensuring participant privacy. Our survey will combine multiple choice and scenario-based questions to capture how users balance convenience, security, and memory constraints. For example, we will ask participants how often they reuse passwords across personal and work accounts, how confident they feel in their ability to remember unique passwords, and their willingness to adopt password managers. We'll also ask about risk perception, how likely respondents believe they are to be hacked, since past studies suggest this perception often doesn't match reality. Understanding this mindset is crucial for predicting whether someone will change their behavior. Pearman and co-authors in 2019 identified several barriers to adopting these tools, which will guide how we phrase these questions to uncover underlying attitudes. Once data is collected, we'll analyze behavioral patterns and look for correlations between factors like perceived effort, risk awareness, and tool adoption. This will help us identify which factors are most likely linked to reuse, providing actionable insight for training and awareness efforts. What we expect to learn. Based on previous studies, we expect to confirm that users often choose passwords based on convenience and memory limitations, even when they know reuse is risky. ER's 2012 study demonstrated how password creation behavior is strongly influenced by usability cues. Their research showed that people simplify their passwords to make them easier to recall, sacrificing security in the process. This suggests that password reuse is partly an unavoidable coping mechanism for handling dozens of account logins. Our study's findings could help shift the focus towards solutions that actually fit human behavior. By understanding the behavioral drivers behind reuse, like mental fatigue, low perceived risk, or distrust of tools, we can recommend interventions that make security practices easier, more trustworthy, and more sustainable. The long-term impact of this research could be better training programs, smarter use of password managers, and organizational policies that encourage security without adding unnecessary burden on users. Ultimately, it's about designing defenses that people can and will follow, reducing the widespread risk of password reuse once and for all. These are the references that I use in my presentation. Thank you for watching my presentation. Please contact me through Canvas if you have any questions. Have a good day.